Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphanlast, and right here I'm trying to finish off this character blink animation. And basically I'm rolling two videos into one. Basically the basic coloring and then the shadows and highlights and all that. Basically, I like how this is looking, but there is a little bit of line jitter that's going on with the shadows and highlights. And the primary reason for that is because this workflow does tend to kind of glitch out a little bit. And then the autosave feature kind of prevents you from preventing line jitter. Basically, if you have the autosave feature turned on and you're not just saving manually with Control S on the keyboard, then you're going to kind of run into an issue where you're going to have to redo some work. And it's that process of redoing work that's causing the line jitter. And it can be really frustrating. Okay, now what I'm going to discuss really quick here is a question that just keeps popping up, and it's fine that it keeps popping up. I don't know why it keeps being thrown at me, because I just simply have so many videos that showcase the workflow that I use. Now, when I first started working with OpenToons and blogging about it, I was using nothing but Toons vector levels. And the reason for that is because the prior version of OpenToons 1.1.2 would crash every single time you would use a Toons raster level, or if you would use a raster level. So really the only option that was available to me at the time was Toons Vector, and so I used nothing but Toons Vector at the time. But now that OpenToons is more stable, I can do things more the traditional route, and this is the sort of workflow that I use, and I would actually recommend you to use it as well. Basically what I do is I make my rough animation with raster levels, okay? And then from there, I go ahead and create a Toons vector level, and I clean it up. I clean up the animation. Now, some people complain about the vector brush engine instead of OpenToons. Yes, the OpenGL attributes to the vector brush engine definitely needs to be improved. There's no debating that, and there are a number of us on some of these Discord chats that have been talking at length about how we need to eventually get around to improving the OpenGL. And the thing is that it's expensive. This one piece of optimization for OpenToons would basically make OpenToons 2.0, which basically means that if I were to create a crowdsourcing for it, then it would be thousands upon thousands of dollars to get implemented into OpenToons. Now, I personally have no problem with that, but that is well above anything that I can personally afford. And my audience is not quite big enough to afford, say, donations towards something like that. So for the time being, what I do is I just kind of draw some basic shapes in the locations that I need the vector work to be, and then I sculpt them into place and use the pump tool and all that to get the cleanup work to look good. After that, once the cleanup work starts looking finished, I go ahead, and this is the key part. How do you color your animations? I use Toons raster levels. So I grab all of the cleanup work that I've done with my Toons vector level, and I go to the level strip, I select every single level, I press Ctrl-C to copy it. I create a Toons raster level and go to the level strip and press Ctrl-V in order to paste it in. And so all of your cleanup work is now raster work, and yet you preserved your vector work as well. I make sure that my Toons raster level is below the vector work so that it's literally below the vector work in the stacking order, so that the vectors can show and look crisp and everything. And the thing that I wind up coloring in the end is just the Toons raster level. That's it. It's not any more convoluted than that. So Like, I have so many videos with the 51 animation series that shows the sort of workflow that I use for coloring my animations nowadays, and this is the most effective technique that I've found. So, like, just check it out. Just watch my 51 animation series and see how I'm doing it. That's all that you need to do. And really, a lot of the pain and frustration that you have in trying to color your animations will be alleviated. However, I have to stress that you need to make sure that all of your cleanup artwork is just right, because if you wind up copying all of your cleanup work and putting it into the toon's raster level, the line work is not right, and you're trying to clean up your line work while you've already started to color it. Basically, every change that you have with the line work, you're going to have to do it twice. Once for the vector work, and once for the toon's raster level. So that's really frustrating to do. So make sure that everything is looking just right with the rough animation. Then go to the cleanup. Make sure that it looks just right. And then move on towards coloring your animation and all that good stuff. Now, I am still trying to, as is evident with this video here, I am still trying to perfect my coloring technique, and I'm trying to find the best coloring technique. And really, Behemoth, his technique is really nice looking. However, I still need to refine it and learn how to do it a little bit better. So just a few seconds ago, you saw how it started to kind of glitch out a little bit, like what I've been describing for a little while now. What I'm doing here is I basically colored the entire animation with some flats, some basic coloring, and then I turned my eraser to freehand and set it to frame range. Once I accomplished that, I went ahead and used my fill tool. I set it to freehand and set it to selective. Now, I added this green background to help prevent some unpleasant glitches from occurring, and this can really help out quite a bit. As soon as I find the best workflow for Behemoth's coloring technique, I plan on having another tutorial on this workflow, something that's more in-depth and everything like that, but for the time being, I'm still kind of learning it. And if you guys really want to know the ins and outs of how this specific workflow actually functions and the thought process behind it, the basic head turn animation, when I'm coloring it and everything, that's a video that delves into it a little bit more. And this video here kind of complements that video in that I'm using a few other techniques that I'm kind of learning along the way. Now, in my last Noble Frugal Studio collaboration video, I mentioned how we're going to get some Adobe After Effects features in OpenToonz. As soon as that gets implemented into OpenToonz, I kind of see this workflow as eventually kind of being phased out and being kind of just not ever used anymore because something better will have replaced it. But that having been said, you have to work with the tools that you actually currently have, not the tools that are up and coming and not out yet, and you can't work with tools that you wish you had but don't. You just have to work with what you have. And after having seen so many animations made by Behemoth, I can't help but think currently this is the best workflow for that. I may not be that good at it at this point in time, but practice makes perfect. If this is a workflow that kind of interests you a little bit, just keep playing around with it. It's hard to put everything into words as to what to look out for and what to make sure that you do. But as soon as I can form every little description into words, as soon as I can identify what causes everything to glitch out sometimes, as soon as that happens, I can give you guys a much better tutorial on this topic. Something that you guys might actually notice is that when I use my eraser tool set to freehand and with the frame range checkbox ticked, what I do is I go ahead and I go to like my first frame. And let's say I skip ahead to like frame 5 and I go ahead and I erase what needs to be erased. I then now have 5 frames with the shadow or highlight that needs to be colored. But since there isn't any onion skins for this sort of workflow, what I do is I go to the last frame that has the freehand frame range eraser work on it, and I trace it out as best as I can. And then I go another 5 or 6 different frames or so, and then I go ahead and erase what needs to be erased. And the reason why I do that is because the first outline of the frame range winds up being my onion skin. It lets me know where things are. I've been thinking about this workflow for quite a while, actually, and it has all the potential to actually get your shadows and highlights done really quickly. But again, I have to stress, when you're doing this particular workflow for your coloring, your shadows, and your highlights, you need to turn off the autosave feature, because otherwise you're just going to wind up getting jittery lines just like what I got in this animation. I am looking forward to trying this coloring technique out yet again. However, it's going to be some time until I do that. And I am thinking about revisiting this animation along with a few others and improving upon them, just simply because I am gradually getting better at animating, and also because OpenToonz is progressively getting better and better tools. Now, it is fairly common for people to say something like, it's not the tool, it's the person that's using it. And you know what? I understand that argument and that fairly popular phrase. Yes, you can get a mediocre tool and make something fairly good. However, I don't think it's really up for debate if you get the best tool that you can possibly have for the job, or just the tool that is designed for the task that you have at hand. You can actually make something amazing with a lot less effort. Now, I think that phrase, it's not the tool, it's the person that's using it, I think that phrase was probably created at some point like in the 1800s, back when if anything broke, your wagon broke, your little pocket watch broke or whatever, you were able to fix the machinery all by yourself. But nowadays, like, take your phone for example. If your phone breaks, it's not like you're going to be able to crack it open, fix the little silicone chips and everything, and put it back together again, and it's going to be working perfectly. If the screen breaks, it's not like you got some sort of weird liquid that you could pour on the screen and it'll fix the glass or something like that. And it's not like there's any distributors that actually reliably have replacement screens. They only keep little replacement parts like that for a year and such. We live in a very different time than when that phrase was coined. And so if you're able to get a better tool, or a tool that's better suited for a task, it's best that you do it then. And what I am referring to is, yet again, the After Effects tools or features that we're eventually going to wind up getting into OpenToonz. I am really looking forward to using those and showcasing them when they first arrive, by actually refining some of my older animations. So this is the finished final product here. I actually think it's one of my best, even though the shadows and highlights, the lines wind up jittering a bit. But it looks really nice, in my opinion. And I'm looking forward to improving on this area. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please like, share, and subscribe anyways. And if you guys would like to take a look at any of my other videos, feel free to take a look at them on the screen. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Have a champion. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.